Jeb Bush says Donald Trump's latest controversial remarks only boost Hillary Clinton's chances of winning the White House.
She's great at being the victim. You know, this will enhance her victimology status. This is what she loves doing. Trump is not going to be president because he says these things. It turns people off. I mean, for crying out loud, we're 2 days before Christmas. Lighten up, man. I'm saying that she will use this in a way that won't be helpful to our cause. I'm concurring with the question.
Governor Bush also saying just because Trump's winning doesn't mean he make a good president. Karl Rove, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Fox News contributor here to analyze this. How you doing, Karl? Merry Christmas to you there in Austin, Texas. Let's look at strategy for a moment, and let me circle back to Jeb in a second. But on Saturday night, you had Hillary Clinton accusing Donald Trump of making disparaging remarks about Muslims overseas, and then Muslims overseas showing these videos to one another and fueling the jihad. This is how it went Saturday night. Her words on stage, New Hampshire.
And you see Hillary, I mean, did you watch that? What happened to her? No, she's terrible. She's terrible. Donald Trump is on video, and ISIS is using him on the video to recruit. And it turned out to be a lie. She's a liar.
So that was his response after the debate on Saturday night in New Hampshire. How do you think that strategy worked for him for 6 hours?
Yeah. Well, look, there was one more thing that he did, which in my opinion was a mistake. He said, she owes me an apology. She lied about me. She owes me an apology. He made it personal. If you want to open with those kind of remarks, there are two better ways to go, in my opinion. If he had then said, you know, this just shows she doesn't get it. It's not me saying that Muslim extremists are a problem. The Muslim extremists themselves are a problem. They hate us. They want to kill us. And here's what I'm going to do to take them on. Or if he had said, you know what, she shouldn't have been lying about that video, claiming that there was video. She's already been doing that before. Remember, she lied about Benghazi when she said it was a video that caused the attack on our embassy there, and that wasn't true. And instead, he made it all about him. He made it sort of narcissistically said, she owes me an apology for insulting me and not telling the truth about me. Well, he doesn't tell the truth about a lot of people all the time, and if people and feels no compulsion to apologize for that. So keep it on the substance. Don't make it personal. And in my opinion, it was a mistake for him to then descend into what he's done.
It seemed like he had her up against the ropes. And
he did. He had her on the ropes. And then, well, no, he let her out of the corner. He let her out of the corner by, again, making it about his ego rather than making it about the substance of the issue. If he had said, you know what, by God, she just doesn't get it about the threat that we face abroad, and here's what I'm going to do. Or if he had said, you know what, I remember well when she was saying that it was the video, and now we know that she was even telling her own daughter that it wasn't the video. She lied about the video. Both of those things would have been a better place to be and would have kept her on the ropes, and instead he made this all about you need to apologize to me because you've insulted me, and that just doesn't fly with this guy. He's insulted too many people to have that be a credible outline.
Jeb Bush seems to be more aggressive now than he has been to date. At one point in the last 48 hours, he called Donald Trump a jerk. So he's changing his approach. Here, and we mentioned how Chris Christie and Ted Cruz and others are responding to the latest dust-up. Here is Jeb Bush from a bit earlier on it also.
No, just because he's winning doesn't mean that he would be a good commander-in-chief. It doesn't mean that he is a serious candidate. It means he's winning. Fine, I respect that. People are latched onto him because of their anger and angst.
And I just mentioned the CNN poll today, which shows yet again Trump with a clear and commanding lead across the board, Karl, as a candidate and on the issues. Now, for somebody like Jeb Bush, there's a piece in Politico today saying that people in New Hampshire are still giving him a shot. You know, what is his best strategy at this point when you consider the low single digits for him?
Yeah, well, punch up. You know, there are two ways to go about this. One is he's decided to punch up. Others have decided, like Chris Christie, that while they're going to sharpen their differences with Trump, they're not going to make him the center point. Jeb Bush is at I think it was 3% in the poll that you cited. He's at 5% in Iowa, 8% in New Hampshire, better in those early states. And what he's decided to do is his way afford, he thinks, is to punch up. And Trump makes the mistake of punching down. I mean, if you're the front runner where Trump is, keep doing the things that are keeping you moving up. Don't waste your time and energy punching down, because now we're getting into the period where, yeah, there are lots of important things that a campaign has in the way of resources, money, organization, volunteers, but we're increasingly getting to the point where the most important thing between sort of now and February 1st is time. And if you spend your time doing things that don't advance your cause, then you've wasted one of the most important, irreplaceable commodities that you have in your campaign.
February 1 is the Iowa caucus, but before that, 3 weeks from now, you've got a debate on Fox Business, and the criteria has been set out. You will have 6, maybe 7 candidates on stage for the main primetime debate. That will be interesting. And almost 60% of Republican primary voters say they have yet to make up their final choice.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. In the Quinnipiac poll, 8% were undecided. 58% said they could offer a name of a candidate who would cause them to change their minds. And we've seen, you're right, in other polls, approaching 6 out of 10. Now, Trump does have an advantage, because in poll after poll, if you look within the primary, his people are more committed than are the supporters of others. But you're right, there's a great deal of variability that's yet to come. And what happens to Trump if he loses Iowa to Ted Cruz, like it increasingly looks like it's going to happen?
It's going to be a new year in more ways than one, if that's the case. Thank you, Carl. Carl Rove in Austin, Merry Christmas. Thank you, sir.
Merry Christmas to you, Bill.
Nicely done.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, look at it. Van Gogh's coming out of him right now.
The whiteboard.
Thank you, brother.
It may almost be Christmas time, but no truce in the war of words between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Hillary defending the claim she made at the Democratic debate that ISIS is using videos of Trump to recruit terrorists. That claim widely panned by independent fact-checkers and by Trump himself. Listen to Hillary explaining what she really meant.
You know, people around the world pay very close attention to our elections. And if you go on Arabic television, as we have, and you look at what is being blasted out with video of Mr. Trump being translated into Arabic, no Muslims coming to the United States, other kinds of derogatory, defamatory statements, it is playing into the hands of the violent jihadists.
Okay, so doubling down, Tom Shalhoub, on her claim that Trump is in these jihadist videos. She's not been able to produce a video, much like Benghazi, but yet she doesn't care. She's just going to use that similar attack line. Smart?
No, it's not smart. And the thing is that it not only, he's probably going to appear in a video soon. Someone's going to make a video and say, oh, look, Donald Trump is in a recruitment video. But the argument about recruitment, I don't think it holds water anyway. Because what you're saying is that the jihadists base their recruiting on U.S. policy, and they don't. They hate the entire West. Nothing that a U.S. policymaker does can cause more recruitment. And the Democrats have been using that argument for the past few years, and I think it's a false argument.
Yeah, so take then the counter of that, right? So the counter of that, Harris, is then if we were nicer, if we didn't criticize ISIS, if we did not go after radical Islam, then they would temper it down, stop killing us. I mean, really, when you think about it, it's illogical.
Right. Well, if we had that kind of control, why wouldn't we be using it?
Yeah.
I mean, if we thought that we could influence them that way, my goodness, we ought to be making a ton of videos. We all should be in them. Everybody should want to star in the anti-ISIS video. You know, I mean, if we have the kind of power to motivate them in one way, wouldn't it make sense that we have the power to motivate them in another way? But what about anything that Donald Trump or anybody else would do could compare with the video of burning a man alive inside of a cage on video?
No
what in the world would we be doing in this country?
But
regardless of politics, what would we be doing that could compare with that?
This is the same woman who blames Benghazi on a spontaneous YouTube video that never existed, lest us forget. But I think what's important right now is facts are important. And if you're going to hold Donald Trump's feet to the fire about allegedly seeing people celebrating on 9/11, those videos haven't come to play any place, we have to hold her feet to the same fire. It's a flat-out lie, and I believe in this election cycle more than ever, facts are very important and very stubborn.
You've covered the Clintons for decades, EMAC.
Yeah.
And so you've seen when they lie, their lies are grandiose. I mean, they are serial liars, and they've gotten away with it.
Yeah.
So that's why she's doubling down now, because she just figures the media will cover her. She can play a victim about offensive rhetoric, and then she can just keep hammering home a lie.
It becomes an architecture of lies because now she turned it away from an ISIS video to now Arabic television, right? So, you know, it's sort of like, following the meandering pathways in their mind of how they get away from the initial lie without fessing up and saying, you know what, I was wrong. There is no ISIS video. We don't have it, just as Megan said. Pony it up, just as Donald Trump was, really blasted for saying, produce a video of Muslims celebrating after 9/11. And by the way, Hillary Clinton is doing the same thing Trump was being accused of by the president, fear-mongering. So, she's fear-mongering too, saying that when we behave like this in the United States, as Tom pointed out, it creates jihadi recruits.
And by the way, you look at, Megan, who is in these ISIS videos, right? Her husband, President Obama, Joe Biden. Take Obama, for example. He goes out of his way, bends over backwards not to offend the enemy. In fact, he won't even name them, and he's in a video. So to Tom's point, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they hate us, especially women, right? Because we're empowered and we're speaking our minds. I mean, this show is an ISIS recruitment tool, for God's sake.
And I agree. I think the implication that somehow Donald Trump is exacerbating it in some way is disingenuous. But I think she will do and say anything that it takes. She will lie. She will say anything, and it doesn't really matter because to the Clintons, as we have seen for many, many decades, the facts just don't matter.
But this is also the former Secretary of State making this claim about an ISIS video. What a bombshell. What news that would be in the middle of a debate, she said this. For that to have existed. It doesn't exist.
But she blamed Benghazi on a YouTube video as well. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. She just manifests things out of thin air.
Harris, she allocated from her State Department millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to take out ads in Pakistan, to apologize for that whole video. I mean, she did an infomercial apology tour in the Middle East. There is no lie this woman won't tell. I mean, looking the families of the Benghazi victims in the eye and lying about how they died, she's soulless.
Exactly.
So I think what you said is spot on, though, about this election cycle. And as journalists, we are going to have to be spot on about our jobs. And I love the way you put it. I wrote it down. Be careful that it doesn't become an architect. Or an architecture, an architecture of lies. And that applies all around. We're going to really have to be on top of things because they're going to take shots at each other, and Hillary Clinton is proving with this double down on this video that the facts may not matter as much to the people who are actually speaking the word.
That's right. They're ethically obtuse. I think that's the way you have to see it.
You know what creates recruitment, or what creates more terrorists, is success on their part and a lack of action on the part of the West. If you make a red line and then you ignore that red line, that's what causes recruitment. Bin Laden said that. He said, we're going to attack them, and they're not going to be able to hit us back. Watch. And then then we did hit back on Bin Laden. So the thing was that they've always said that the West is ineffectual, that they can't hit us back. And that's what causes recruitment, when we don't hit back.
You know what they like the most, too? You know what else they like? When we are weak and we're fighting within within this country. They like when we're at each other's throats and we're not focused on them.
This conversation that Hillary Clinton has sparked and kind of going back and forth and what we think is effective in their world, that's what they love, because I think you're right. And based on the reporting that we've done, Tom, it would be true. They are not watching American politics to then go back to wherever they're nesting like scorpions to try to kill us and come up with a plan. How do we know that? Because it looks like for years and years and years they'll work on one thing and then execute. We've got these people living among us. They'll be here for years and years and years, the San Bernardino killers, and then all of a sudden. So it's not the cycle of politics that's driving them anyway. So why would she think that? Why would she say
as they exterminate Christians, right?
Well, anybody they can get their hands on they don't like.
Jeb Bush and Donald Trump escalating their feud back and forth. Bush once again saying Trump is not a serious candidate for the White House. The former Florida governor earlier today playing down concerns that his own campaign is in trouble.
What I'm going to do is have town hall meeting after town hall meeting in New Hampshire, campaign in South Carolina, Iowa, and these early states, build an organization that's second to none, and show the momentum going into the debate.
All right. Eric Cantor, former House Majority Leader, is my guest now. He has endorsed Jeb Bush. In fact, he did it a few months ago. Welcome back here, and good morning to you as we say hello in your, I guess, your new life, because 2 years ago, you were upset in a primary that stunned the country. And many people had numerous theories about why you lost, and one of them is that you were part of the establishment and an insider in Washington. So here's what I'm trying to figure out. In 2016, is this truly the year of the outsider, or do we know yet?
Well, Bill, you know, first of all, I think what's going on in this campaign and going on in the political debate in this country is people are so angry and frustrated at Washington. And I think as a Republican, I too am angry. I'm angry at this president. I'm angry at the policies he's put into place. But, you know, the reaction to that, as far as our nomination process right now, is about anger. And you've seen Donald Trump. He is the chaos candidate, as Jeb has said, and he responds to that anger by making it even worse. And I think as we get closer to the time at which people will go to the polls, this anger will then funnel itself into a more constructive method, which is people, I think, will go into the voting booth and will say, who is best fit to be our next president? And clearly, you look at Donald Trump, he's full of vulgarities, full of insults, and he's just not serious. I mean, look at where he's been on policy issues. You know, 2 months ago, he says we don't need to worry about ISIS and Assad, and then he flips now and says, well, we certainly do need to, and then he says Putin is a great man. He says we've got to go in and keep all the Muslims out of this country. Those are not serious policies.
But it's up
and
to
the way that I think we respond to the anger, the way we respond to the anger, Bill, is we put forth a leader who's got serious policies, and that's Jeb. You go to Jeb2016.com, and he lays out a plan to lead this country.
That's up to Jeb Bush and the other candidates to challenge Trump on all those matters. And sometimes they do it effectively, and sometimes, frankly, they do not. And when you talk about channeling the anger of the country, what Trump supporters would argue is that he's channeling my anger, and that's why he's at 39%. That's why he's at 42%.
But again, I think,
and on it climbs.
I think you've got to go put these polls into perspective right now. I think everyone will accept the fact that primary voters do not make up their mind, 70% nearly, do not make up their mind until a month before they go to vote. In New Hampshire, I think the figure is 50% don't make up their mind on the candidate until the last week. So again, I think we're at this point where, yes, Trump channels anger by being even angrier, by being even more vulgar, right? But the most effective way to vindicate an anger or hatred, frankly, of what's going on is to put forth counter-proposals, serious policies that can go turn this country around. And Jeb has done that, and that's, I think, where this is headed.
React to this now. Our Fox poll shows this. The American people, how do you feel about your government? Is it broken? Look where it is. It's 66%. Look where it was a year ago and a year before that. I mean, that is a clear two-thirds majority who believe the government's broken. And that's why you see Trump doing what he's doing today. We also found 7% think the government is functioning pretty well. Those numbers are paltry.
Absolutely, but what's the best counter to that? Just to be angry along with everyone else? Or if you're going to be a leader, do you want to step up and say, look, I've got a plan? Jeb2016.com, Jeb lays out his plan to fix the broken education system, the broken immigration system. He lays out a plan to rebuild our military and to defeat ISIS, not just to go in and criticize and say vulgar things about candidates. Okay, and let me tell you something, Bill. The bottom line is we got to beat Hillary Clinton next year. How do you beat her? You beat her with a serious leader and a serious candidate.
Do you think the electorate is different at all in 2016 than it was in 2014 when you lost?
Well, listen, I mean, first of all, I mean, let's set my race aside because some different circumstances that exist in open primaries and things like that. But I think that the electorate is even angrier today than it was a year and a half ago when I lost my primary. Certainly, they're angry. They're angry to see what this president has done. He's run roughshod over the Congress. He's run roughshod over the American people, frankly, defying the law in many instances, which is why there's so many court cases now challenging the executive orders that he's implemented. People are angry. They're angry because their pocketbook seems not ever to grow anymore. Wages have not gone up under this president. We don't see any real optimism and growth. America has ceded its primary position as a leader globally. All of these things have contributed to the anger in the electorate.
When I hear that argument and I pair that with the Fox polling I just showed you about how Americans feel about their government and broken, you're making a case for an outsider.
Well, listen, but I'm making the case for a real leader who's demonstrated the ability to fix problems, and that's Jeb Bush. He's the only one who has had a record of success in turning around a situation in his home state of Florida, one of the biggest states in our country, one of the most dynamic states in terms of immigration, in terms of senior citizens. He has demonstrated effective results, and then he's got a plan now to do the same for our country.
Then why is he in single digits?
Well, again, I think that what you're seeing is this anger is being stoked by a chaos candidate, and that's what's going on. But I do think as we get closer to the primaries, and history suggests that voters will always wait till the last minute to get serious about choosing the candidate that they will vote for.
We shall see then. How's your new life, by the way?
It's awesome. It's awesome,
Yeah?
Bill. I'm vice chairman at Moelis & Company. We're a global investment bank. Having the ability to work with businesses, to grow them and to create jobs, it's what I was about in the public sector and enjoying it now in the private sector.
Maybe a little more. That's what I'm reading between the lines now. Have a great holiday with your family. Eric